Today we're taking a look at how all the changes have affected the meta in patch 14.3 so far, and what our tier list looks like after all those buffs and nerfs. As always, we're going to start off with the top lane, and in the S2 we have Aatrox, Camille, Darius, Fiora, Gragas, Alawi, Maokai, Poppy, Riven, Trundle, Zac and Vayne. Darius, Aatrox and Fiora continue to be a really popular threat in the top lane, along with some other familiar faces like Poppy and Riven. But some other cheeky pocket picks like Maokai and Zac are proving that they can be a serious problem too, so watch out for those ones. Gragas has bounced back with a bomber in the top lane this patch, although he is performing really well in a bunch of other roles too. In the top lane though, it's all about Rod of Ages, and with this weird and wonderful tanky ability haste build, you are insanely hard to lane against. You can combo and kite so often and easily, and then you can flash engage those fights, easily carrying games without too much effort. Gragas has a bunch of different item options to overcome any different matchup, making him a really versatile pick to go for at the moment. And if you want to see more about those Gragas builds and items, then don't forget to check out our website. Here you can find all the different options depending on your matchups and import them straight into your client with their overlay in just one click. So check out the link in the description to see it for yourself. Alawi had a pretty awful start to this season, but now she's back up there with some of the strongest champions in the top lane again. And she's boasting a seriously impressive win rate, just being insanely hard to deal with. In terms of her items, it's all about a mix of damage and durability, with Sundered Sky, Iceborne Gauntlet, Sterax and Black Cleaver all giving her loads of damage, tons of tankiness and plenty of ability haste, which allows her to spam those basic abilities to take down multiple enemies at once. Split pushing is still obviously really effective so far this season, especially if you do have those 6 Void Grubs taken early on. So get stuck in, bring enemies towards you and take them all out and go down swinging. Camille has also made a strong return to the top tiers this patch, and her classic combo of Triforce and Hydra is still seeming to be her strongest build path. Then you've got those other strong options like Sterax, Sundered Sky and Death Dance later on to make you seriously bulky while you dive onto enemy carries and eliminate them in just a few clicks. Camille does take a bit more practice to get the hang of than some of the other champions we've spoken about today, but it's just one of those picks you'll always be able to carry with in the right games. So give her a go. Into the jungle now, and in the S tier we have Belveth, Brand, Briar, Evelynn, Ivern, Master Yi, Nidalee, Nocturne and Viego. A-tier champions like Echo, Graves, Kayn, Kha'Zix and Kindred are all seriously strong in the right games too, but not quite as consistent as the other picks in the S tier. Shaco saw a huge boost in his win rate after his buffs last patch, as well as Nidalee, who shot straight back up there into the S tier. Yes, Nidalee is back and winning a ton of games this patch with her crazy high snowball potential and insane burst damage. She really is all about skirmishing and fighting early and often and stacking up that soul stealer as soon as possible so she can one-shot carries with spears and pounces and executes too with that bite. Nidalee really isn't the most easiest of champions in the world to play, but once you know what you're doing, she really is a real threat this patch and one you should definitely be playing if you are good enough to do it. Master Yi is having a blast so far this patch too, and the buffs to Rageblade might just have tipped him into that slightly overpowered tier, especially so at lower ranks where players just really do struggle to deal with him. Master Yi is all about cutting and chopping and resetting his way through teams with crazy auto attack damage shredding through all types of targets without even needing to itemize for penetration, as the true damage in his kit along with boatloads of attack speed and on-hit damage just makes him melt through anyone in the game. And despite people spamming Frozen Hearts across the board in multiple roles, it's simply not enough to slow this guy down. Despite his nerfs, Brand is still an amazing jungler to go for, and if you're good enough on him you can play him in the mid lane and the bot lane too. But in the jungle, this is where he really shines because he deletes those camps so quickly, he can power farm so easily, he can gank really effectively, and he scales like an absolute monster. So over the last few weeks, if you have been farming LP by playing Brand in the jungle, or anywhere else on the Rift for that matter, then keep calm and carry on, because it's safe to say he's still a bit too strong. Well, let's move down to the mid lane now, and in the S tier we have Akshan, Anivia, Aurelion Sol, Gragas, Kassadin, Katarina, Sylas, Twisted Fate and Yone. The recent buffs this patch to Rod of Ages saw Anivia and Kassadin rise back up to the S tier and make other users of this item like Twisted Fate even more broken than he already was. Yes, that's right, TF is having the season of his life. You can play him AP mid, you can play him AD carry bot, or you can even play him AD top. But whatever build you go for, he's just one of the best choices in the entire roster so far this season. As an AP mid laner though, he offers really good poke, amazing wave clear and fantastic roaming. He's also got super reliable point and click CC with those gold cards, and genuinely crazy late game burst with blue cards and stacked deck Lichbane auto attacks too. He one-shots enemy carries, he locks down opponents easily and often, and destroys structures in seconds too. So if you haven't already been playing him, you need to ask yourself why. Nothing was quite as broken as Aurelion Sol this patch though, and initially he was on a whole other planet with just how strong he was, which does actually make sense because in the lore he's the most powerful champion in the game. Riot did acknowledge this though and shipped some hotfix nerfs pretty quickly after patch 14.3, but even after this he's still in a great spot with a really impressive win rate. He's got amazing item options, he's got amazing scaling, and some seriously ridiculous AoE damage in the late game too. Yone has also recently proven that he's not messing around, having a much higher success rate in both of the solo lanes recently that actually makes his ridiculous popularity somewhat understandable. Yone is that kind of champion that no one really wants to play against. He has insane DPS, amazing scaling, fantastic 1v2 or 1v3 potential, and can easily snowball and stomp games if he hits those power spikes sooner rather than later. So if you are a mid lane main and you aren't playing him yourself, make sure you are ready and prepared to play against it, because it's one of the most popular picks in the game right now and performing much better than usual too. If you are struggling with who to play against Yone, then don't forget to check out our counters page on our website. If you scroll down here, you can see Yone's matchups table for every single role, so you can see all the best champions to counter him in the top lane and of course in the mid lane too, so you can go for all the different picks that are strongest against him and increase your chances of beating him. Well, let's have a look at those AD carries next, and in the S tier we have Ezreal, Jhin, Misfortune, Senna, Seraphine, Twisted Fate, Twitch and Vayne. Ezreal stays in the S tier despite his nerfs this patch, and top lethality picks like Jhin and Misfortune continue to pop off even after the nerfs to Ghostblade and Collector. Twitch and Vayne are both a bit more situational than some other choices here, but just due to their consistently impressive win rates and stats this patch, if you get them in the right games, they are definitely some of the best carries you can play. Smolder has been a really interesting champion release so far. His scaling is absolutely crazy and he basically has his own Elder Dragon buff in the late game. But his early game was really lacking, which made players adapt and instead trade around his W to bully and poke lanes and get through the lane phase without just being a little bit useless. In high elo we've got Smolder in the S tier, but for our majority tier list here for all ranks we've got him in the A tier. He's definitely a great late game champion, but a lot of lower rank players don't have the patience or efficiency to get him scaled up whilst maintaining impact through the early game too. If you are good enough on Smolder, if you can get stronger sooner rather than later and get those stacks ramped up by 20 minutes, you will definitely see just how strong he is though. So I know you AD carry mains probably don't want to hear it, but Seraphine is a seriously solid pick to play in the bot lane. She doesn't have a glowing bow and arrow or a badass rifle, and she's not able to dash and kite her way through teams. But that doesn't mean she doesn't have the ability to carry really hard from this role. There are very few picks that do what Seraphine does, and definitely no picks that do it quite as well as she does. She's all about wave clear, poke, sustain and crazy scaling, and she's one of the best weak side bot lane picks to go for if you've got those roaming supports like the bards or the pikes. Seraphine can set up ganks if the attention is focused on bot lane, but if not, spam those Qs on the minion waves, get scaled up for free and get ready to dish out tons of utility and surprising damage later on. Lucian has also made a bit of a return so far this season. His build options are still solid with either Kraken into Navori against tanks or Stormrazor into Cyclo Sword against squishies. But either way, if you pick this champion with the right support, he is a little bit broken. We've got Lucian in the A tier at the moment, but he does swing either way based on the support matchups and synergies. If you pick Lucian with Emilio, it is easily S tier, but if you pick Lucian with Lulu, it's simply not the same. It is really great to have Lucian back on the menu though. I for one love playing this guy, and he's always been one of those picks that's either super duper OP or completely irrelevant. So this nice balance of picking him in the right games feels pretty damn good to me. Finally, let's go over those supports, and in the S tier we have Bard, Blitz, Brand, Janna, Maokai, Pyke, Rakan, Senna and Zyra. Not really too much has changed down in the support role this patch, with just a few champions being affected like Pyke and Karma, who got some pretty big buffs and nerfs. Yes, Pyke's buffs did make enough difference to help him bounce back, and he's instantly slotted straight back into the meta, with super scary early game aggressive plays and ganks and his ability to roam and carry the map better than ever. Pyke is all about those level 2 all-ins, he's all about getting stuck in and fighting and snowballing, and before you know it, he's resetting his way through teams with his ultimate, farming more pentakills than any other support in the game added together. Pyke does take a bit more practice, and you do have to be careful because he is exceptionally squishy. But once you do get the hang of him, he's a lot of fun, he's winning a lot of games, and even if your AD carry isn't too great, just 1v9 elsewhere instead. GG. Maokai is still one of the most broken champions in the entire game, even after his nerfs this patch. His win rate did come down a tiny bit from over 58% to just under 57%, but these stats are still completely bonkers, and it's not too difficult to understand why he's just so damn OP. He has the most reliable CC and engage for any support with his point and click route in his W. He's one of the best supports to set up ganks and fights, and his ultimate CC is also some of the strongest CC in the game too. He snowballs really quickly, he can roam, his movement speed from his items makes his roaming even better, and he also becomes pretty damn tanky once he's ahead too, making him even harder to deal with and punish at the same time. Finally, we also wanted to talk about Zyra, who's really proving she's here to stay in the S tier this season. Zyra is all about her poke and snares in the bot lane and really bullying lanes to the point where they simply cannot lane whatsoever. She starts off with some poke and harass, and before you know it, she's locking down and deleting entire teams with massive AoE damage in skirmishes and fights. Do not underestimate just how much damage Zyra can deal in team fights to really make the difference in your games. She's always been a bit of a problem at lower ranks where bot laners don't really know how to deal with her, but now she's that good that she's even causing havoc in higher elos too, so give her a try. Well, that brings us to the end of our patch 14.3 updated tier list video. We hope you guys are all enjoying season 2024 so far, and don't forget to check out Mobalytics.gg to get all the best builds, runes, guides, combos, counters and much more. Just click the link in the description to see it all for yourself. Thanks for watching, and as always guys, take care.